Whoa, hey guys, it's StarTard here, and it's time for yet another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. Thank you all for the 1500, 1600 channel views, and thank you for making my Mermail deck profile for post new challengers, the first video of mine to reach 500 views. So, thanks a lot, guys. I love the support you've given me, and I'm just really grateful for everything that you guys have done in watching my videos and giving me feedback. So in celebration, I have decided to show you my next deck with my guest star Gumi here. So this deck, as I said a while back, is Satellarknight. I told you guys that I would be reviewing my Satellar deck as soon as I got it, and it has come. It came a little bit ago, and I am so excited to do this profile. So before I begin, I'll start with a little exposition. Satellarknight is a fairly easy deck to run. It has few monsters, some spells, and a lot of traps. And for a tier 1 low tier 1, high tier 2 deck, it's very cheap to build. Mine took about 200 bucks, so if you guys want a good deck that doesn't cost a whole lot of money, I highly suggest building Satellarknight. So, let's begin. The Satellar core revolves around searching, and what better card to do that with than 3 Satellarknight Denebs. 3 Deneb is quite amazing, because Deneb is pretty much reinforcement of the army for Satellarknights. When Deneb is summoned in any way, shape, or form, he searches a Satellarknight. So, Deneb is obviously very good for this deck. Plus, you want the Nebs in the graveyard, so that you can use him with other cards in the deck, namely Satellarknight Unukalai, Satellarknight Altair. Altair summons a Teller from the grave, and if you have Deneb in there, Altair is your best friend. So 3 Altair is amazing. And to get Altair easier, you can have a couple of Satellarknight Vegas. Vega summons a Teller from the hand, but because you don't want to summon a lot from the hand, and because you can't summon other Vegas, you only want a couple of Vega. So 2 Vegas is fine. 2 Satellarknight Unukalai. I find that 2 Unukalai is very good. 3 I find to be cloggy, because you can't pitch other Unukalai, and he doesn't have much utility other than pitching the occasional Vega and pitching Deneb. So Unukalai is really good at 2. 3 is based on personal preference, but I like 2 just because it doesn't clog as much. And the last monster in the Tellarknight core is Tellarknight Alzam. Alzam is a good defender. He's got 1800 defense, and he deals 1000 damage when he's summoned through any way. So one of the plays is to Vega into this thing and burn for 1000 and then go for Cowboy. So this thing is good. Alzam is fun, especially in late game, because that's when damage really starts to stack and it puts a lot of pressure on the opponent. And that's really it for the Satellar core, guys. As I said, it's not very many monsters. 3 Altair, 3 Deneb, 2 Vega, 2 Unukalai, and 1 Alzam. That's not a lot of monsters. That's like 10 monsters, maybe 11 monsters. So very small core, because you want to keep a lot of the monsters in your graveyard. So that's the Teller core. And then I run 2 support cards in the form of Thunder King and Honest. Because this is a post-new challenger profile, Thunder King is more important now than he ever was, because he stops your opponent from searching. While it can stop you from searching too, as long as you get Thunder King early to mid-game, he can win a lot of games for you, especially on turn 1, and especially against Qliphoth, because summoning Thunder King against Scout is really important. And then Honest is there as a supporter to Thunder King, or to deal that last bit of damage. Honest can also wall with 1900 defense. Let's see, there it is. So, Honest is good. It protects your monsters and it keeps you safe. And that's really all for the monster core, other than 2 effect failure. I don't count Veiler as a monster per se because you just discard it from the hand to negate something. Of course, Breakthrough Skill is a better option this format, but I run Veiler as a substitute because I don't want it, I can't afford hollow breakthroughs. I really want ultra breakthroughs, so until I can get those, then I'm just going to run Veiler. And as I said, guys, that's the monster core. It's very, very small. It only runs 13 monsters, excluding the 2 Veilers, because it doesn't need a whole lot of monsters to get the job done. And to search your monsters whenever you want, it's backed up by a really, really big spell core. And, oh, sorry, Gumi. 2 reinforcement of the army and 3 Pot of Duality makes sure that you can get whatever Satellars or back row that you need whenever you need them. 2 reinforcement searches your Deneb, and it searches everything really except Thunder King and Honest. And I find that 2 reinforcement is good. Some people run 3, but I find 3 to be cloggy because you'll be searching all the time with Deneb. So 2 reinforcement is good because you can just add it with Duality. And then, of course, triple Duality to get whatever back row you need and whatever spells and monsters you need. Can get reinforcement to get Deneb and another monster. If in a last-ditch effort you don't get anything off Duality, you can just add another Duality. So that's all for the search engine. If you have lots of Tellers in your grave, Soul Charge is obviously an amazing card. This card is pretty much mandatory. And then 3 Mystical Space Typhoons. 3 MST in this format is also amazing because it gets rid of Qliphoth Scout and it stops end phase back row if you're going first and draw this card. Plus it stops Vanity's Emptiness and Skill Drain and all those other continuous spells. So 3 MST to protect yourself. And then Raigeki. I don't have 3 Vanity's Emptiness yet because the other Emptiness I ordered got lost in the mail, unfortunately. So until then, I'm going to contend with Raigeki just because it clears Swarm Fields and it circumvents Tributed Qliphoths outside of towers. But Raigeki is just there to get rid of big fields and provide a small advantage for a turn. Of course, you can replace it with Book of Moon, etc., and or other trap cards. So just drop a comment for things that I should take out other than Emptiness, which is what is definitely going to come in for Raigeki. 3, to start the trap lineup, triple Alpha. So Stellar Nova Alpha is pretty much Solemn Judgment, only it can't negate summons. It can negate everything else, though. So what this thing is good for is summoning a Nuclei or a Deneb and then negating, and this stops everything. This stops Qliphoth Scout, Sinister Shadow Games, Shaddoll Fusion, other monster effects, other spell cards, other trap cards, and it gets you a free draw. So obviously 3 Stellar Nova Alpha is mandatory in this. And 3 Call the Haunted. 3 Call is amazing, obviously. Pitching Deneb and then resummoning it, or recycling Call the Haunted with some of your other extra deck cards, which I'll get to later. Call the Haunted can recur everything. It can get Alzam for a late burn. It can get Deneb for a search, Altair for a summon if you have other Satellars in the grave, and it can get Vega if you have the Altair in your hand. So 3 Call the Haunteds, because you want to be summoning out of your grave as much as possible. And then, as I said before, I was dropping Raigeki for a 3rd Emptiness. 3 Emptiness this format is more important than ever because you want to stop those Pendulums, you want to stop the Shaddoll Fusions, you want to stop Burning Abyss before they can come out, you want to stop the Tour Guides, you want to stop the Mirror Match. So this card at 3 is amazing. Expect it to get hit or even banned in the next format, so just be wary of that. Wiretap stops that last minute trap card, especially Shadow Games or something to negate your Alpha. Compulse just sends back that Shaddoll Fusion monster. So, oh, sorry, Gumi. This thing just sends it back so it doesn't get the effect if it dies. And not only that, it can also stop big monsters. Bottomless, obviously. 2-dimensional prison just to stop attacks, stall for a tiny bit, and then solemn and torrential. Solemn warning is obvious just because it's a staple, and torrential stops big fields from coming out on you. So that's really it, guys. That's Tellers, the deck that runs 13 monster and 20 traps. Mine actually runs 15, but that's beside the point. So to support your main deck during games 2 and 3, you want to have a really solid side, and I find that this side works extremely well. So it runs 2 Vanity's Fiend just to stop a lot of those special summons. Because you'll be summoning all the time, pretty much, Vanity turn 2 is easy to make. And then Dimensional Fissure. While people may raise their eyebrows at this, because you exceed all the time and exceed material doesn't get banished, Dimensional Fissure is an amazing card. Trap Stun, just to stop that skill drain or shadow games or other trap. Plus, if you're going for game, Trap Stun is amazing. Stygian Dirge against Hexseed heavy decks. Deep Dark Trap Hole against Pendulums and against Shaddolls. This card is very good. Now, Fairy Wind obviously against Qliphoth. 2 Shadow Imprisoning. Shadow Imprisoning obviously is against Burning Abyss and Shaddoll. That's self-explanatory. Going along with that is Soul Drain. Soul Drain also stops those 2 decks from happening because you don't have any effects that go off in the grave, so Soul Drain is mandatory. Malevolent Catastrophe. If you get attacked, it blows up all the back row, and it also helps against Qliphoth. And then this is a little preemptive. If not these 2 cards, I would highly suggest siding like another Wiretap and a Fiendish or something else along those lines. But planning for the future, because Necloth was recently announced to come to us in January, 2 Mind Drain is for the Necloth format. Just thinking a little bit ahead. If you don't want, if you're thinking for the immediate, then maybe Spell Shattering Arrow or some other anti-Shaddoll Qliphoth stuff. Maybe Fiendish Chain or another Wiretap, maybe, as I said before. But thinking for the Necloth format too, Mind Drain is going to be really necessary. That combined with Soul Drain and Dimensional Fissure pretty much seals the deal. So that's the main and the side. That'll pretty much win you games 2 and 3 if you lose game 1. And the extra deck, I find, is very, very standard. So I'm going to get into that right away. 2 Delteros. Delteros is extremely good. If he's got Exceed material, your summons can't be stopped. He can detach a material to blow up anything. That's awesome. And if he's sent to the graveyard in any way, shape, or form, you get a free Teller from your hand or deck. So Delteros is obviously something that you want to have in that extra deck. 2 Satellarknight Trever. 2 Stellarknight Trever. Excuse me. Trever is extremely important because he recycles other material-less Exceeds. He recycles useless Exceeds. He can recycle himself. And he can recycle Call the Haunted, which is also very important. If you can get Call the Haunted and summon like Vega to get Altair and get 3 monsters on the field, and then summon another monster, you can make this card and then recycle Altair and Call the Haunted. Plus, he can send cards from your opponent's hand to the grave, and that's good against Qliphoth. Star Liege Paladynamo. This card is very standard in any deck that runs level 4 lights, like Constellar or this deck. Daigusto Emerald recycles all of your Tellers, and if he has no material, like I said, he can be returned to the hand through Trever, as can Paladynamo. Fujente Tsukuyomi. This is an interesting tech card because it gets rid of dead hands. If you have a hand of like Alzam and a useless Anukalai, but you have 2 monsters on the field that are light and level 4, which should be all of what you have on the field, make this card, pitch those 2 useless tellers, and draw 2 cards. Hopefully you'll get 2 back row and you can set those. So that's for consistency. Castell should be seen in literally every rank 4 extra deck. Omega, he's here for the same reason that Paladynamo is. Every extra deck every Exceed deck that has rank 4 lights, like Tellers or Constellars, should have Omega. That's very standard. Exciton is very standard. As I said before, Alzom Cowboy can burn for a lot of damage, and it puts a lot of pressure, especially in late game. Cowboy, I have burned for game with Cowboy a lot of times. Abyss Dweller against Burning Abyss and Shaddoll. Kusanagi, because you'll obviously be summoning a lot of monsters, so three tellers isn't hard to get. So you can make this card, and he can get upwards of 4,000 attack. He negates Shadow Games, he negates skill drains, he negates all those things. Arc, very standard. And Excalibur, he's a personal touch just to destroy lots of things, just to destroy big monsters. He's not the best, but I find that in late game, or if your opponent has a really big monster out, this thing is useful for getting rid of those. Other things you can tech instead of Excalibur are Gandiva. Gandiva's helpful against Noble Knight and Burning Abyss and other such decks, especially the Mirror Match. Other rank 4s to consider other than Gandiva, you guys can drop comments, tell me what you guys think about other monsters to add. So that's really it for Satellarknights, guys. Like I said, it's a budget deck, so if you guys don't have a lot of money, consider buying this deck. It's not that expensive if you don't want to hollow it out like mine is. I got mine for 200 hollowed out. Unhollowed, I would give it around probably 150, maybe 120. So it's very cheap for a top tier deck, and it's very fast, it's very consistent. So definitely consider checking it out. Like I said, thanks again, guys, for giving me all the views. Love you all. So until next deck profile, see you then.